prosecutors to drop all charges and set her free. Many felt as though the state was punishing the survivor. The day after the shooting, neighbors expressed genuine surprise. Megan McCarty had been a neighbor for years and reported that she'd never really seen anything amiss at the Meadows home. Across the street, neighbor Jim Waters said he hadn't seen anything problematic at the home ever before. Bresha had only been mentioned in Warren police reports as a runaway. Just 2 months earlier, around the time that media outlets would report that she ran away for the second time, Brandy Meadows reported to police that her daughter had left the home and had been gone overnight. Even more telling, the police report made by Brandy around the time of the first reported runaway, January 15, 2015, indicate that Bresha had not returned home from school that day and that she was angry about getting into trouble over a boy. The early testimonials and information gleaned from repeated interviews with Bresha's mother, siblings, and some of their friends indicated no mention of abuse, according to the prosecution. Her siblings were reported to have said that nothing had occurred during the day of July 28, 2016, that could have foretold the upcoming tragedy. They say Jonathan Meadows had never even spanked his daughter, and they did not know why Bresha would kill her father. The release of the contents of some of what was said in early interviews provides a sharp contrast to the tone and absolute clarity of the information that is the cornerstone to the #FreeBresha media movement. The week of October 6th was even designated across the internet as a week to show support for Bresha's release. The preliminary hearing scheduled for October 6, 2016 was postponed until November 22nd, and then postponed until January 20th, 2017. One success for the defense came on December 10, 2016, when prosecutors decided to allow her case to remain in juvenile court. Life in prison was now off the table. However, juvenile sanctions such as treatment requirements or probation could still go on past the age of 21. At the preliminary hearing on January 20, 2017, Bresha had been incarcerated for 175 days without a trial. The serious youthful offender designation was dropped from the aggravated manslaughter charge, assuring that the maximum age of juvenile sanctions would be 21. Trial was set to begin on May 22, 2017, but a plea deal was in the works. By early May 2017, Bresha's attorney Ian Feldman had begun a crusade to have Bresha allowed to return home until her trial was to begin at the end of the month. However, she wasn't released. Instead of marking the start of her murder trial, May 22, 2017 saw a preliminary hearing take place where Trumbull County Family Court Judge Pamela Rentala accepted Bresha's plea of true to the lesser charge of involuntary manslaughter. The plea agreement sentenced Bresha to 1 year in jail and 6 months in a treatment facility. She was required to remain locked up for another 2 months before being transferred to the Cleveland Child Service Agency Belfair GCB for 6 months of mental health treatment. Bresha Meadows could then be returned home to her family. Following Bresha's plea deal, Assistant County Prosecutor Stanley Elkins finally broke his silence regarding the investigation and case, saying that the most troubling part is that the comments made by the people in the home on and around July 28, 2016, and what they are saying now are two different things. These are the people who witnessed the shooting, and now they are changing their testimony. Elkins wishes the judge had issued a gag order preventing Bresha's attorney Ian Friedman from bombarding the media with what he calls misinformation. Once released and allowed to perpetuate, the influence on public perception could not be undone. He presents as an example the fact that Bresha's defense rested on allegations of abuse against the victim, Jonathan Meadows, portraying him as abusive and controlling. However, interviews from the night of the murder reflect that Bresha's immediate family members and friends of her siblings had all stated that Jonathan Meadows had never even spanked his daughter. Furthermore, officers were told on the night of the murder that Jonathan Meadows' firearms were all registered in Brandy Meadows' name, but only because he was a convicted felon. But upon investigation, it was determined that Jonathan Meadows was in fact not a felon. Prosecutors felt forced to a certain extent to offer the plea agreement, fearing that the bombardment of the media with details from Bresha's mother's side would seriously hinder the opportunity for a fair trial. They felt she would likely be acquitted altogether, and the threat was just too great. They feared that the perception by the public of Jonathan Meadows as a serial abuser could not be overcome. The state did not feel that this contention could be proved by one 5-year-old rescinded order of protection, as no other undisputable, reputable evidence of domestic violence was ever substantiated. The family of Jonathan Meadows, most notably his brother and sister, had plenty to say in defense of their sibling, beginning immediately following his murder. Older sister Lena Cooper of Nashville claimed that her brother was being persecuted for an isolated domestic violence incident that the couple seemed to have gotten past years ago. Lena states that she visited the family in Ohio the previous year and saw no indications of a family living in fear, as Brandy Meadows had claimed. After reading her victim impact statement at the plea hearing, Lena took the time to make a statement saying that she was not disputing that her niece had been treated for anxiety and depression prior to the murder. In fact, the siblings contend that she should have stayed in treatment at the time and should have never been released back home in the first place. In a televised interview with local news, Brother James Blount stresses that the time for justice for Jonathan was over, and the focus should remain on getting Bresha the mental health treatment that she needed even more by then. He claims that she had had 3 suicide attempts in the years leading up to the shooting death of her father. The siblings stressed the fact that Bresha's clashes with her parents in the past had generally revolved around the teenager associating with kids that her parents found undesirable and an inappropriate influence for her age. Pretty much regular kid stuff. Jonathan's sister Lena spoke on behalf of his side of the family when she made the bold statement that, "We don't believe that my niece acted alone. We do feel that other members of her family were involved, and it's very hard for us to accept the deal that has been set. Our brother was the victim. He was not the monster that the media portrayed him to be. We talked with authorities, and they said there was no signs of abuse." Stanley Elkins agreed, saying that any and all investigations that had been conducted and concluded prior to the shooting indicated that all allegations were unsubstantiated. According to Elkins, it was a long while after Jonathan Meadows' murder that the defense began to raise allegations of abuse within official legal documents. Elkins contends that the prosecution was obligated to keep their mouths shut, and while they were, the defense bombarded the media with misinformation about the situation which could not be retracted. Bresha's DNA was not found on the gun, only the DNA of both of her parents, although others in the home did report seeing her with the gun in her hand. When police arrived on the scene, the remaining 4 adults left in the home had deemed it appropriate to place a fully clothed and hysterical Bresha into a running shower. For what reason, it was never quite determined. Lena Cooper also pointed out that much of the crime scene had been disturbed by the family, including placing the couch and pillows that the victim was sleeping on when he was murdered out by the curb before the scene was even properly processed. Brandy Meadows has asserted that Bresha saved her life. "She is my hero. She helped me. She helped all of us so we could have a better life." But she does blame herself, saying that when she left in 2011, she should have never come back and my daughter wouldn't be in jail. "I wasn't strong enough to leave," she explains. Following the completion of her jail sentence and 6 months in a mental health treatment facility, Bresha Meadows, now 16 years old, returned home to her family on Sunday, February 3, 2018. She will be on probation for 2 years, At the age of 18, her juvenile record will be sealed and expunged when she turns 21. As always, I'm so glad you took the time to join me. Remember to check out our sponsor, the State of Logic podcast, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes at The State of Logic. Kevin and Stephen will be thrilled to meet you. One last thing before we go. I have 2 podcast buddy promos I want to share with you this week. The first is for Murder Mile. Catch up before another episode drops this Thursday. Murder Mile is a true crime podcast and audio-guided walk of 300-plus untold, unsolved, and long-forgotten murder cases, all set within 1 square mile of the West End of London. Check them out on iTunes. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review.
Welcome to the Murder Mile True Crime Podcast. My name is Michael, and each week I shall take you on a guided walk of hundreds of untold, unsolved, and long-forgotten murders, all set within 1 square mile. Proving that, if you dig deep enough, you'll find that on every street, in every city, there's a killer on every corner, death on every doorstep, and homicide in every home. Murder Mile is investigated using original police files and eyewitness testimony, with authentic sounds recorded at the murder location itself, and is accompanied by photos, videos and maps to make you feel like you're actually there. A new episode of the Murder Mile True Crime Podcast is released every Thursday on almost every podcast platform. Thank you. Enjoy your day.
And check out the Home Video Hustle on Podbean and iTunes, where friends Brent and PJ watch movies together that PJ has generally never seen. And last but not least, thanks for everything you do. We really appreciate it, and we couldn't do it without you.
Hey, do you like movies?
Hey, do you like podcasts?
If you do, then come on down and listen to the Home Video Hustle podcast, homie.
Hustle.
Every Friday, we talk about whatever movie PJ picks out the bag. What does that mean? Well, every Wednesday on our YouTube page, I pick a bunch of movies at random. Sometimes there's a theme to it, sometimes not. PJ picks the movie out, and guess what? We watch it on Friday. We talk about it for about maybe an hour and a half, whatever we feel like doing. Might give you something good to watch, baby. Come on down every Friday.
So come get your hustle on with Home Video Hustle.
You can find the show on any podcatcher app, or you can come down to homevideohustle.podbean.com. All of them in one place for you, so you can go ahead and binge it like it's Netflix. We ain't the Defenders, but I like to think we're a little bit better than that. Come holler at your boys, man. Come chill with us. Peace.
Murders, Minors, Killer Kids is mixed, edited, and produced by the audio wizards at Resonate Recordings. If you want your free episode, and honestly, who doesn't, head over to resonaterecordings.com today. Come back next week for another installment of Murders, Minors, Killer Kids to hear about Justine Winter and the night she crossed the center line.